Okay, ladies, welcome.
Thecla, can you come on screen and
I just didn't even realize I wasn't really on. Hello. Hello, Linda. Hi, Mary.
Hi.
hey, who are the people on the top? Brenda and Teresa and all those people. Is there another one going on?
Those
or-
are other presenters that are just listening in the background.
Oh, okay. All right, no, I think we're fine. So at 3, it just opens up and
Yeah.
people join, or
Yes. We have
All right.
right now, we have, I don't know, 69 on the call at this moment.
Uh-oh, I've lost
No, you're not. We see you.
my ability to hear.
Technology. So who did those beautiful paintings behind you?
who, are you talking to me or to Thecla?
You.
Me? Well, Susan Masad, who was my Joy of Dementia partner before she passed away in November, actually did many of them. She loved to do collages. And she would often do them as a birthday. She would create kind of a birthday card.
Nice.
So that's mostly who's there.
They're very nice.
Yeah, it's a nice reminder of her.
Yes.
Can you hear us, Sec?
I can hear
Yeah,
you.
I
Okay.
didn't for a minute and I just changed headphones.
Okay, cool.
Okay, ladies, I'm going to step out and you gals can get going and I will monitor the chat room.
Mary,
Okay.
can we play a game? Can we play a one-word game?
Can we?
Yeah, let's.
Meaning you
Just-
and I, or?
You and I. Yes, you and I.
Well, I think people are in the room.
Yep, we're here.
Okay,
Okay.
so I think we are
You
officially
can play a
beginning.
game though if you want.
Oh, no, we will play a game. So I can see, the chat. Can you see the chat? Thecla? Just make sure, okay. So yes, I mean,
So why don't
So
you
I think-
both introduce yourself? Start
Yes.
with that, please.
all righty. Well, hello, everyone. Sorry, it happened very suddenly. I think I'm more used to people coming in. Anyway, welcome to the Joy of Dementia. You've got to be kidding. I'm Mary Fridley, and this is my partner in creating joy, Thecla Farrell.
Hello.
We're
Hello.
thrilled to be with you for the next hour. And I am also have the great good honor of being the coordinator of the Reimagining Dementia Coalition. It's actually, the full name is Reimagining Dementia, a creative coalition for justice. And certainly I would love for you to join us if you're so interested. But we can say a little bit more about that later. Now, just so you would know, and hopefully you'll learn something in the next few minutes about Thecla and I, we are, improvisation is very important to our work. And it's important in what we offer to you and other care partners, or really anyone that we work with. And we'll say a little bit more about that, but just so you know, we are in an improvisational moment now because there was a misunderstanding, which I take complete responsibility for. But we were expecting, because a lot of our work is very interactive. That's what we do. We create environments and spaces together. However, we didn't fully recognize till yesterday at some point that the setup for these conversations were webinars. So which means we cannot see you. You can see us, obviously. So, however, we are going to, that does not dissuade us.
Correct.
We put our heads together, and however, we are going to ask you all to work with us and to, in some ways, help us do what we want to do.
Right.
And really use the chat a lot to speak to us, to speak to each other, and to engage in conversation. We obviously wish it were more, in person.
Interactive.
We, as you all know, from everyone here has experience, I imagine, in dealing with dementia, as do Thecla and I, both professionally and personally, and we can again say a little bit about that. But as you know, well, life, but also dementia is full of the unexpected. You
Yes,
really,
Mary.
you really can't write a script for it. So this is good practice. We're going to kind of now take this and see what we can create with all of you. But again, please, because we really, really, really would rather not talk at you. We would rather create
Mary, why don't we start by breaking the ice and ask people to respond to Joy of Dementia?
Sure.
You got to be kidding.
Yeah. Yes. So why don't we do a couple of things? One, it would just be helpful to know who's in the room. So if people could share, and this is kind of a fun thing we would do if we were in person. Well, we are in person. We are here with you somewhere. We just can't see you. If everyone could just take a moment to write in the chat your first name, and then write a descriptor of yourself. One word and the first letter of which matches is the same as your first name. And then in another kind of letter, the third thing is to then just share in one or two words, if you will, what your caregiving skill is.
Mary, can I make an example?
Yeah, please.
So an example would be, I am marvelous Magda. My caregiving gift is song.
So
Okay.
if you can now if we could take a moment to do that, we would appreciate it. Also, it gives us a sense of who you are. So let's just hear a little bit from all of you.
I'm going to write mine as well, Mary. Put it
Yes.
in the mix. My name is Thekla. I am terrific.
Gloria Scale, welcome. Okay,
Thekla.
I love some joy. All right, others, come on.
My caregiving gift is touch. Okay.
Jovial Janet, yes.
Terry Donna.
Oh, wonderful.
Brave Bobby. My caregiving gift is listening.
Good. I already like this crowd already.
Vagabond Vicky. My caregiving gift is laughter. Yes.
All righty.
Super
Well, keep going,
Sam.
because actually, I think everyone I enjoy getting to know you, and I'm guessing other people enjoy it as well. But please keep writing. And if at any point, anything we're saying, if you have a question or want to kind of say something, please do. We'll,
Yep.
and,
I'm going to keep my eye on the chat, Mary.
so, and we will come to Joy of Dementia. Let me just say a little bit about Thekla and I and kind of from where we are coming from. So you have that framing, and hopefully I'm really working. I have been known to talk a lot, but I'm really trying to make this a shorter presentation. So,
And I'm not going to let her.
right, she's my breaking. Anyway, we are both on the faculty of the Eastside Institute. I'm not going to say a lot about it. We can put the link in. But we're an international training center. And really, I mean, it's complex. There's much that we've done. We've been doing it for 40 years. But really, one of the reasons that the Institute exists is because we're very concerned to address what we consider an international development crisis. That we believe that our world, our communities, our people, all of us individually, collectively need to grow. And need to grow in some important new ways if we're going to address not only all that's going on in dementia, but all that's going on in the world that's so painful. So the Institute is where the Joy of Dementia, you gotta be kidding, started about 5 or 6 years ago as a workshop and conversation series. And we practice an approach called social therapeutics. Hello, lively Linda. And basically, social therapeutics is being used by people around the world and around the US. And again, there's a lot of ways to describe what this approach is, but let me just share a couple things that quickly come to mind. One is first and foremost, I think we're all about creating environments for what we call non-knowing growing. In our view, for Thecla and I, we're developmentalists. We believe that everyone, regardless of age, cognitive or physical ability, life circumstance, can continue to develop throughout our lifetimes. However, if we are to grow, we need to do it together.
Right.
And that's what we're going to be doing with you today in the best way we can, again, with some limitations, but life is full of limitations. But we want to create a non-knowing growing environment because, while it's nice to know some things, like it's good to know that the red light means stop, green light means go, and the various assorted other things. What we're more looking at is that it's this obsession with knowing, an obsession with kind of this hyper-cognitive world in which we live, including, I think, a belief that our cognitive abilities is kind of what makes us human, which makes us great and kind of distinguishes us from, well, there's a hierarchy within human beings, but certainly distinguishes us from so-called other animals. But it's actually now getting in the way of us growing. And it's getting in the way of us coming up with some creative new solutions to, again, all that's going on in the world. And we're not, and in part because knowing, as a broad paradigm, not with a little tiny K, it just doesn't equip us well to handle uncertainty, unknowability. And our world is increasingly, and our day-to-day experience is just all over the place. And certainly for that reason, my experience, and I think it's been Thecla's as well, I think it's particularly valuable in the dementia context, which is, to me, is kind of all uncertainty and unknowability. And that was my experience. My mom passed away a few years ago from late-stage dementia, Thecla's mom, and she'll talk a little bit more about, is currently living with dementia. We were both the primary care partners. So, we know this as well. We know this kind of inside and out. So in a way, we offer people the opportunity to exercise other muscles. So I kind of view this as somewhere between a playground and a gym session, because what we don't get to exercise very often as adults in kind of profound ways is our ability to be creative, our ability to be silly, our ability to touch each other in a remarkably diverse number of ways. Like I think we get through life in emotional ways and being more open, more intimate. So that's really the opportunity we would love to create with you today. And the other thought I had, because all of us have been at a number of the workshops and they've been wonderful. And I want to congratulate Linda and her group on just bringing in some top notch people. And I know it'll continue tomorrow. And I've been through, and I was fortunately able to attend a few, and just wonderful advice and opportunities and out there for people who are, grappling with and having to go through to take care of people living with dementia and probably others. But in my experience, and, I think this, again, I try never to speak for other people, but I think I could speak for Thecla as well. Sometimes my experience is when I'm sitting in something that's rich with information, it still kind of raises the question of how am I going to take all that and make it useful to my life and to the people I love, the people who I'm with. So there's sometimes a disconnect, and a lot of the advice is wonderful, and in my experience, even when my mom was first diagnosed, I remember reading just the basic things you're supposed to do with people living with dementia, which was enormously helpful. I am not saying this in any critique at all, but it was like the things we know. You're in the moment. You don't negate them, et cetera, which I really work to do. However, and even though I come from a play and improvisational background and have been doing this for years, I thought, well, wait a minute. We don't live in the moment, non-negating culture. That's just not, I don't know about you all, but, and Declan can speak to this as well, it's very hard to be in the moment. It's just not supported as an activity. We're always rushing elsewhere. We're always someplace else. And we're always negating each other. We're always contradicting each other. And that's just in normal life. I'm not even talking about being obnoxious. So it does raise the question of, well, if we're going to be in the moment, what do we have to create around us to be able to do that and have it be meaningful in our lives? Because to state the obvious, one size simply doesn't fit all. And that's, I think, for the Institute and for our work, we've worked very hard for this to be something we create together, because it's not a technique that we're going to give to you and say, here, take this and apply it in that situation. And if you apply it, then miraculous things will happen. Not going to happen. One, we don't have that, but two, that's generally speaking not. What we'd rather do is work with you on is how can we work with you to incorporate more play and performance and some of the things that you all have been talking about, joy and silliness and all of that, and patience, in creating what we call dementia ensembles, which again, we can say a little bit more about. But that's a lot of what the Joy of Dementia work is about. It's creating, and you can call them whatever you want. We call them dementia ensembles because we come from performance/theater. And that's been a big influence in our work. But there's support communities, but they have to be created. And in creating them, they're there to support you and others to grow. They're less concerned, although there are many, many good people doing this, they're less concerned with helping you get better at dealing with dementia. Like it's in that sense, we're saying, hey, you know what would be really important in life is the extent to which you can grow in life and embrace a whole host of ways of living and being that we believe would better position you for dealing with dementia and a whole host of other things. However, it really is what we can create together. And again, just to start wrapping up. So again, I said before, we kind of view this as some combination of a gym where we're going to work out hopefully some new muscles and a playground. And because at the heart of what we do, as I mentioned up top, is improvisation. We're big fans of improvisation and helping people live life more improvisationally. Would just be curious if folks could just, again, if you've ever done improvisation or familiar with it, maybe you could just say yes in the chat room. It'd just be interesting to know if people, like if we're just, because we're not going to go into great depth about it, but one thing to know is that we create playgrounds for adults. And we create them in the spirit that, in a way, we all come together to allow babies and young children to grow. I mean, my gosh, when you see a baby, where we just allow them enormous space to imitate, to fail, to pretend, to babble. Babies say, blah, 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 blah. And, nobody says, hey, that's not language. What are you talking about? Go away, get a dictionary, come back. And when you can talk. No, we give them an imitative, performatory, in many ways, improvisation that we all participate in, that we relate to them as speakers well before they are actually speaking. Right. I say that I'm the baby, Decla's the mother, I go, ba, 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 ba.
Yes, Mary, that is really, really good. And yes, you can have some milk.
Right. So, and that's in fact the context in which babies grow. They learn how to talk. That's how we all come into this world. We learn to talk, to walk. Sadly, that kind of disappears about the time we enter school at age 6. And that's play spirit, that pretend spirit, in fact, is now viewed as a negative. You got to grow up. You got to learn who you are. You got to be who you are. You got to. And we're saying, well, there's, again, much value in that. However, it's holding us adults back from doing much that's new. and certainly creating new possibilities for ourselves and others. So, because at the heart of improv, and this is where we're actually going to do a little bit of improv that Thich will be leading, but just a couple of quick things about improv. Everything is an offer in improv. There are no problems, there's no solutions. And interestingly, there are no individuals. Improv is all about listening in the spirit of making everyone, that ensemble, whatever you want to call it, that group, look good.
Yep.
You know, and it just gives us permission to go new places, to be silly, to not be bound by truth or rationality or what's known. There's no failure because there's no mistakes. You're building with whatever people give you and you take it wherever you take it. And more importantly, I think there's no dichotomies. There's no either or, happy, sad, emotional, physical, creative, practical, all the things that we impose upon ourselves and are imposed upon us that make it, again, so difficult to kind of be with uncertainty, to be with the messiness of life and go, okay, what can we continue creating with that? And we try to leave a lot of room for the emotionality of dementia, the conflictedness. And just to finally, and then turn it over to Thecla and see where we want to go.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that one of the things that, I can't see you, but I'm guessing if I can, and from based on your comments, I think this is probably an extraordinarily caring, compassionate grouping of people. I have no doubt about that. And I'm sure you have many talents in your lives, not just as care partners. And that's, but what I also see and what we see in our work, and this might, the word might kind of, be a little bit surprising, but we also see revolutionaries. And by that, I don't mean that with a capital R. You're not going to go out and storm any barricades. But for us, it's important because it's a radical shift in how we see ourselves. Because for us, in a way, what we mean by that is that we see you and we see that human beings have the collective capacity to create something new with whatever exists in our lives, and including all the crap. And I heard a lot, in the various workshops. There's a lot of stuff out there. There's pain, frustration, anxiety, happiness, joy. There's shame. Which I think is such a huge issue. There's just a whole emotionality of dementia. And I think too often what it means to be a care partner gets limited to, you kind of have to tough it out. You have to get through it. You have to put your needs aside. And that can certainly, and all of us can say more about that. And I was thinking, when I was thinking about what I wanted to say, I was realizing, a lot of the focus, and certainly on my work and the work of the Institute, which has always been committed to creating an anti-diagnostic approach. We do not believe that diagnosis or labeling is terribly healthy. Certainly it's something that people living with dementia are burdened with. And I think it creates so much of the tragedy narrative because it's just so deeply inhumane how people living with dementia get related. But really, being a care partner is no less a label. Yeah. The minute you kind of take on that time, it can also very quickly turn into a set of expectations as opposed to something we collectively create together. And that's endlessly changing, and it'll be whatever it is given the people involved. So coming back for a moment to the Dementia Ensembles, it's also a way of helping us all see that, in fact, we have much in our lives. We're social beings, we're relational beings. It's hard to see that sometimes because we live in a culture that's so relentlessly individualistic. And that's really what if anything, I think the caring activity, and I've been thinking about this for the last few days, is I guess we help people take care of the relationship, take care of the environment. Because the environments that we create around us really do have a big impact in how we care, how we grow, how the person living with dementia is able to contribute to building that environment, how friends, family, loved ones, medical, whoever you want to bring into it are just can be such an important part of creating environments in which we can take some risks, go some new places, create possibilities, etc. So that's kind of where we're coming from. Declan, you want to add some things and then we can open it up?
We have a few comments and a couple of questions, Mary. I don't know if we want to do that first. Shall we? There's quite a bit in the chat.
Sure.
So Janetta just asked, would you please give examples, especially during difficult times when a loved one is insistent on leaving or is sundowning and agitated?
Well, Janetta, again, I know this is a little hard because you're writing this, but if you could, and maybe others can join you as well, could you say a little bit more about what's difficult for you in those situations and kind of, it just would be helpful to know what it means in your life, because in a funny kind of way, I don't know that then I think we could talk more about perhaps how this could be of support. But I really don't want to give, again, another example that just kind of may or might not be relevant to you and your life. So maybe you could just share some, or others could share some. What is the difficulty? What does it raise for you? Do you have support? What's going on when that happens? Just give us a little bit more sense of the life of it.
Also, Mary, there is someone, Deborah Savage, who has her hand raised.
Okay.
I don't know if the technical folks can allow her to speak. I think it's possible. Let us know, please. While Janetta gives us.
But also by way of continuing the conversation with Janetta, so to speak.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm also asking, maybe this would be a moment if for folks to actually just to also now going back to what Thecla had said before, I mean, you're here at a workshop called The Joy of Dementia, you got to be kidding. So it would also just be helpful to hear responses to that, questions you may have, kind of what's your, I don't know, what's your experience of that? What's your relationship to that? Is it weird? Is it, oh, ho hum, everybody does joy, whatever. So again, the more you can give us, I think the more we can give you. And I'm infinitely patient, so.
Yes,
So
I think
we're
working on the technical in the background here, Mary.
Okay, sure.
So I'm going to read what Janetta responds to you is. My mother is not familiar with my home and tries to leave during the day and throughout the nights when she doesn't sleep. Also, she asks the same questions over and over every 3 to 5 minutes. I wonder if she knows my mother. I lightheartedly answer her, but when she's awake for more than 24 hours, she becomes combative.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And sorry, are we able to put Deb, hear from Deb? Because maybe this might add to what Janetta is saying as well.
Deb, can you put your mic on? Deb Savage? Or let us know. I'm going to assume Deb cannot put her mic on.
Okay. Well, while that's happening, I mean, again.
So Mary, I was thinking about my mom.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So Janetta, the description you have there is, you could be writing that about my mom, Claudia. So one of the things that I mean, my mom is 86 in July. an incredibly independent woman. She's able-bodied, as in she walks around and she's very proud of of who she is and all of that. And she's got dementia. So she asks the same question over and over again. And, at first that threw me, first of all, I was really reluctant. I didn't know what to do about this. And then just through studying the Joy of Dementia and trying some things, I started doing some interesting things with her. So she loves to laugh and she loves to dance. So one of the things I do is when she asks me the same thing, I answer differently each time. And then sometimes she stops and she goes, didn't you answer that differently the last time? Or the other thing I do with her when she's really kind of aggravated is I start talking to her about a fun time we had, like when I was 12, or about members of the family that she really likes. I start engaging her in a conversation. Oh, I get her favorite neighbor, Maria, down the hall to come visit with us and play some music and dance because she loves to. So I try different things. And it's interesting because once she gets into whatever it is, and because she is who she is, she's always responding. The whole last activity she was doing of being completely aggravated goes out the window down the hall. It's no longer a thing because now she's in this moment and she's engaging with me in one way or another. Or the other thing I do, I often practice jokes that I bring to my mom to see if she will laugh, because she's not easy. And another thing I do is sometimes I say something outrageous. Now, my mom says outrageous things. I don't, but I pretend as if I'm her. I act like her to her, and it just cracks her up. So it just some of the things that I do that both brings a little bit of joy to her and to me, and it kind of throws up in the air our relationship. So I'm the daughter, she's the mother, and she's like very, very much the mother. But sometimes, and she will stop and call me. She'll say, and she'll call me mommy. She'll go, okay, mommy, to dare me, So these are just little ways that I try to play with her and play with who she is and the things I know about her that she enjoys. But so that was my little story about I'm going to say our mother, Janetta, because we have the same mother. Oh, there, Mary, you see there are a couple more questions. Things.
Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing the comments people are writing. Yeah. Well, again, I think I'm probably going to do something that's going to be slightly unpopular, because I fully support what Thecla's saying. And I think, and what's interesting though, in this, and I'm glad Thecla's doing this, because in some ways, and I hope this doesn't come across as uncaring, but I'm saying it a bit exaggerated to make a point. I'm less concerned about your relationship to the person living with dementia than I am with, and again, I am not even addressing some of these questions, don't get me wrong, however, than I am in, or maybe we could just fill out the picture more of what kind of support do you have in your life to keep growing emotionally? Do you, like, who are you working with to continuously figure out this constant kind of beautiful, exasperating, whatever experience that is dementia? And because I think that I think that, so for example, I think some of the things that people are saying are wonderful. I think that the use of humor and a lot of things and what Thecla was talking about. What my concern is, and Thecla actually knows something about this because she's gone through it, is I think at least a part of the loneliness of dementia and the isolation is because so much of the focus is on either the person living with dementia or that dyadic relationship between you, like in this case, I'll just go with Thecla since she's the one I can talk to and is in the room. Between her and, in a way, her life. Because one of the issues, and I happen to have done a group with that Thecla was part of for people who are going through this experience. And the thing I remember saying to Thecla toward the end, she was talking about what was going on with her mom and how hard it was. But my mostly what I picked up on was just, and I said to Thecla, how come you're doing this so alone?
Yeah.
And I can say that to her because she's part of a very vibrant community. I happen to know Thecla is not only part of a community, she has a billion friends, she has people who love her, and yet her presentation was so alone. And she was doing it and just getting very caught up in the relationship with her mom for understandable reasons. Believe me, none of this is a criticism, but I do want to push it some because I think otherwise it's not clear what we're doing. Because in a way, there are a lot of people who can give you techniques for how to work with people who are difficult. And I support every one of them if they work for you. And I just want to add to the mix, how are you growing? And kind of, can we shift the gaze a little bit away from just that relationship to, in a sense, what do you need? Who do you have in your life? How can you bring them more into, if you will, this play that you're creating with your mom or with whoever? And I think in some cases, create environments in which the person living with dementia could be a part of it. So I'll just share a very quick story.
Okay.
So I was asked to talk to a woman whose ex-husband is diagnosed. And though they were divorced, they were very close, and she had stepped in to be his primary care partner. They had a child together. And fortunately, she brought into the conversation a couple of his very close friends who were part of his, if you will, his life, and obviously cared very much about him. So again, we talked and they were laying things out. And at some point I said, well, I know this may sound, a little strange, but it seems to me, and a lot of issues were coming up, including the guy wanting to continue driving, which was very upsetting for them, and other things that I know just go on. And I said, well, why don't you all have a conversation and bring him into it about how you want to do this together and to share of what your concerns are. Wait, shit. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, I can.
Okay, I couldn't tell if I froze or everyone else froze. Anyway,
I
see that there is a text from Anne, so we will get to that.
Yes.
But I said, why don't you try bringing everyone together, including him, and saying, how do we want to do this together? And sharing just honestly what the concerns were, including about him driving. It's not it's not a heavy-handed kind of thing. It's not we're going to take your keys away, but to share just what's going on and figure out how you all could be part of something, creating a different kind of environment for having a conversation. Because again, I think it becomes almost immediately kind of authoritarian. And I know this for my mom, like I worked hard not to be the person who made all the decisions for her and kept her from doing things. And it's hard. But I guess what I'm saying is, for example, relative relative to the issue of people leaving their homes, well, we all want to do that at some point, but it's hard to know how to address that in the absence of knowing what the overall environment is.
Yeah.
And what is the environment? I mean, maybe it makes complete sense that they want to leave home. And I'm not saying that lightly, nor am I saying that therefore one shouldn't be concerned. But I guess I'm pushing a little bit around how we very quickly want to go to having answers, when I think we could take a little bit more of a, if you will, philosophical deeper dive into, well, what's going on? How can we do this? Who else could be involved? Are you the only one taking care of your mom?
Yeah.
And what's your emotional growth? What are the vulnerabilities? I know for me, when I went through this with my mom, it was the most emotional year I'd ever had. And I knew that if I wanted to keep giving to her, I needed to do a hell of a lot of work in my life to make sure I had everything I needed to be able to go in there and be as giving as possible. And it meant growing in some new ways and doing some things I was not terribly comfortable with. So go back to Anne for a minute. I don't know, what do I do? Can you just say more about what you mean from that, about that? Just give us a little bit more, because do about what? Who are you currently doing it with? Do you have support or not satisfied with it? Kind of what's, it'd just be helpful to know a little bit more about you and others. Okay, Chaz, exhausted. Whoops, I am.
Yeah, we got a couple of long ones. Mary, I was thinking,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was thinking about your thing about building the ensemble and the change that's made for me. So my mom also wants to go home. We're from Trinidad, and she keeps saying to me, you know, I want to go home, because a couple of her brothers died during COVID and she wasn't able to be there. So I asked her, I literally engaged her in a conversation about how was she thinking about it? Where does she think she wants to live? And so on. And then we are creating a conversation with the rest of our family at home. We're doing a Zoom family, international Zoom family meeting with my mom to talk about what does she need if we're going to go home, if she's going to go home. I'm not going to be there. I'm here in New York City, in the Bronx. And how do we want to do this? And the conversation, I think, just engaging in the activity with all of the family members and so on, took her seriously and her request. And then she said to me, well, actually, I don't know if that's what I should do. Let's talk about it some more. So all I'm saying about that is both the bringing of other people into it and also the engaging in the conversation to the extent she can around home. What is home? Where is home? What do you think about? Is it home where I am? Or is home where a physical place? Or is home where she could think more about, it could be warm all the time, like she can attend her family, because now she is the oldest of her family. So just one of the things about going home.
Yeah. No, I think what you're saying is so important. I think we make so many assumptions that we know what other people mean. And that's why I think the better we could get that in the whole of our lives, the less we would probably do it with people living with dementia. I don't think it's a healthy, like, you can't assume that you know what your mom wants or needs or is thinking about. It's just, and I love the exploration that you all began and will no doubt continue, because God, we're an assumption-making culture. And so I just think that, how do we know what anyone means by anything? And so I think that's maybe if we, and I think somebody said it, and sorry, the chats are going a little too fast and furious now, but I guess it's Barbie, or maybe it was one. Oh, well, everyone, I'm loving what everyone is saying. but so Linda, Barbie, but the reason I love ensembles and creating ensembles, because again, let's just use the theater analogy for a minute. If you go to a play, which I'm guessing everyone has gone to a play of some kind, even if it's to see your 3-year-old play of Daisy, and and there's a character on stage that never talks, or what they say makes no sense whatsoever, or they just repeat themselves over and over and over again. By and large, in the audience, we don't say, why is that character up there? Like, this makes no sense. Now I'm just frustrated because no, when the play is over and the character, the actor, whoever plays that character comes up, we applaud for them and they get these. In fact, I was at a play last night where something happened very similar, got the same amount of applause. They were part of the ensemble. They gave what they could give and it was part of the play. We have a much harder time doing that in life. And again, not just with people living with dementia, I'm sorry. I think it gets exacerbated and exaggerated, but we say the same things to each other all the time. I don't know what circles you are traveling in, but somebody will ask me how I'm doing. Oh, I'm fine. No, I'm fine. I'm fine. But so I'm not making light of it. I know it can be frustrating and a lot of things can be frustrating. However, I don't know. I think that's why the more you can create and self-consciously create the ensemble, the more I think you have permission to play with it. Because for me, and I think this is helpful, I think what some of the comments, and I think some of you have touched on this very well. People often ask Thecla and I, well, what's the joy? What do you mean by joy? There's no joy. And people have gotten very angry at us about saying there's joy in dementia. Believe me, and I understand it. I do. In fact, I think the angry responses have been very helpful because including one, I remember we'd written an article that had appeared about us in the Washington Post and it got a lot of comments. And one of them was, how dare you? Basically, none of this is funny. Oh yes, let's laugh that my mother is never going to see her daughter walk or her granddaughter walk down the aisle, or oh yeah, let's just find it hilarious that we're going to go bankrupt trying to do. No, I understand that all that stuff is real. What we do have some say over is how we respond to it. And I guess for me, the joy it's not laughing at things. Maybe it's humorous, maybe it's not. I don't equate the two. Some people might. The joy is in coming together to create something we never thought we could create. And in so doing, we step outside of ourselves some. We break open just maybe that much. We do some new kinds of things and we go, oh, maybe I don't have to be just this person. Or I don't have to be just the person who has to come up with all the answers for my mom, or kind of keep things under control, or make sure that nothing, but you have to have the stage and the support to do that. So this is not at all, oh yeah, just go off and do it. No, I think that's why and maybe to people's dismay, and maybe people are going, oh my God, that's why we're creating those ensembles, to give us and everyone the support to contribute what you can contribute. So that in a way, the person living with dementia, but others as well, then it just changes how you relate to them. Like if they say the same thing 3 times, then that's what they have to offer. In which case, as Thecla said, you play with it, you figure out, and maybe there's not a lot to do with it. I'm not romanticizing things, but right. You're being supported to perform in a whole host of ways that are giving that. In fact, I think it's giving to the relationship and to you. So I think that's why I feel so strongly about obviously what we're talking about, because I think that's how we end up being alone a lot. And there's so many emotions mixed in. Sorry, I just want to.
Helen Abel is in the house and is doing a nice job of responding with some of the joys. I'm enjoying how Helen is responding. Mary, I wonder if it's a moment to just play a game, the yes and
Sure.
game. It's a simple
Yeah.
game. And I thought how we would do it is none of us are in any of the scenes of our lives alone. So we're going to try to create a story where each of us that are here add a sentence to the story. You start your sentence to embellish the story with yes and. So you accept the last thing that someone said, the person before you, and then you add something to the story. So I thought, Mary, how we would do it is I'm going to start a story.
Mhm.
You get the first yes and.
Okay.
And then our colleagues that are here with us add to the story, add a sentence. Each sentence should further the scene of the story. Okay, so Mary, choose a location for me. Give me a location.
A laundromat.
Okay, I'm gonna be Rebecca. One day, Rebecca was sitting in the laundromat waiting for her clothes to dry.
Yes, and as her clothes were drying, a green-skinned alien walked into the laundromat.
Hmm.
So now someone take yes and
Build with
continue
it.
the story. And the only thing to note is use Rebecca or third person names, not I.
Yes. And I'm going to call when the scene ends. Rebecca and the green-skinned alien. I'm going to read it. Yes, and Rebecca said, "What are you doing here?"
Okay. Somebody take it away.
Yes, and he
Yes.
looked just like my ex-boyfriend,
Okay.
just like her ex-boyfriend.
Yes. Remember, no my or I. That's all we ask. It just gets confusing. All right. Yes, and
The green-skinned alien. Yes, and Rebecca was surprised to know he needed clothes washed. Yeah. Yes, and he needed some new clothes for the party tonight. Yes, and he said he was looking for black jelly beans. Yes, and he was in search of a feathered hat. Yes, and he smelled.
yes. And Rebecca said to him, "Well, do you think it might be possible for me to go to the party with you?"
Yes, and he likes popcorn.
Now take this somewhere. Where are they going? Yes, and to the circus. That's funny.
Yes.
Yes.
And they went to the roof. Yes. And he said she needed to wear green. Yes. And he said yes to the party. And can we bring a feathered hat to the roof?
Yes. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we're going to take like 3 more yes ands and we'll call the scene. Yes. And together they waited for the spaceship to arrive. Yes. And does he have a friend for her friend, for Rebecca's friend?
Right. Close us out. Who's ever next?
Scene.
Okay, give yourselves an invisible, well, we'll give you applause. Hopefully you're giving yourself applause.
Yes,
And
and
loud music, exactly. Sorry, other
I think
thoughts? Oh, go ahead.
I was just thinking about, you know, oftentimes older folks, folks who are not able to put a full sentence together, might say something that, yes, does his friend have a friend for my friend, in the middle of some other story? And how do we build with that? We can build with anything. So that's what I really love about the Yes and game, that we're able to use improvisation and be accepting and appreciative of everything that's given. That was all I was going to say.
Mhm. Yeah. I think I'm going to add a friendly addition to Linda's. You said, and I agree with you. I love what you're saying. The joy is in acceptance that this is what is, and how can we get through it? This for all concerned, such as making this the best summer, or taking one day at a time, and making some happiness in the little things. Completely agree. And I think maybe my friendly amendment would be, or addition would be, the joy is in acceptance that this is what it is, and how can we create with it, and how can we create something new? So maybe that's part of, if you will, quote, getting through it. But I think that what we're advocating for is there's always moments for creating something new. And maybe the newness is that much, but believe me, we're saying, is there something a little different in the yes and spirit that you can do? And again, including bringing many more people into the ensemble, but even if it's just you and the person, that's still an ensemble. And that's as important a part of but what can you create together?
Yes. Mary, I just wanted to highlight to something you said earlier about that that we as care partners, no care partners, we are creators of the environment, and that's the growing that we have to do. That's the thing to embrace. That's one of the things to embrace, and improv is one of the tools for that. And I feel so, I have to tell you, for me, it was a real breakthrough to embrace that. And so I just wanted to highlight it a little bit in what we're doing here today, in talking with the folks who are on.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
The other thing I thought I really wanted to is the thing that you talked about around that doesn't seem normal, of having everybody in the ensemble participate, and also that the emphasis, the focus is not on the person necessarily with dementia, but on the whole grouping. And also on, like, I work really hard to develop myself to do things that make me happy, so that I'm in the position to create an ensemble for Mom and I and all her people. So I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Actually, a couple of things, AMC and then Sandra, but let me just go back up. I love what you said, AMK, sorry. That is something, I just make it up. She doesn't remember her great grandson's name. I come up with a word that sounds like it or have the same start and whatever, and she'll answer the question. I love that. And if anything, honestly, again, just to expand the lens a bit, we're always just making things up. Back when I made up this workshop, I know there's a pull to relate to us as the experts, and we know what we're talking about, and we have the answers. And if we don't give you the answers, you'll give us a bad grade on the surveys, and that's fine. That's fine. It's always helpful. On the other hand, we just make this up. We're creating it, and your participation is a big part of it. So I think that the more we could be comfortable with our making things up in this of our lives, I think then, yes, we could like make things up. we're always making things up. That's what I love. And I love that your mom gets pissed off. Actually, now, that
Well,
reminds me of my mom.
we have to start wrapping up, ladies.
Okay. So, and then just to finally, I love what you said, Sandra. And then Helen reiterated it. Yes, we can make that choice. And if anything, I think the joy of dementia for me, or the joy of living, is growing as choice creators and choice makers.
Yes.
And always asking, we have the power to say, how do we want to do this in any given setting? And then we can make choices about how we want to respond. What do we want to create? Who do we want to bring into it? We may decide, no, going to do the same old thing, have the same old conversations, have the same old fights, whatever. And that's fine. But at least you're relating to yourself as a choice maker.
Yes.
Those things just don't happen. We can choose all kinds of ways to relate to any given situation. So I know that we are running out of time, but I wanted to thank everyone who's on, and those who took the time to write and those who didn't. I know this is, and I love that I feel a part of you. And please accept that this is now part of your Dementia Ensemble.
Yep.
We're here. We are. If there's anything we can do to help you be more creative and growth filled in your life, please reach out to us.
Tell our listeners where they can find you.
Okay, well, let's see. The Eastside Institute is www.eastsideinstitute.org. Eastside Institute is all one word. I'll write it. It's just easier. I'll write my. You want to write your? Why don't you write your email in Fridley at eastsideinstitute.org. On the Eastside Institute's website, you can find the Joy of Dementia, more information about that. But please email us if you just, I don't know, you just want to chat. We are here. And now, as I said, we mean that seriously. We're now part of your Dementia Ensemble.
Thank you, ladies. I so appreciate you being here with us today.
Thank you, Linda.
We'll chat again soon.
Indeed. And you all have a great and creative day.
God bless.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.